So I have a treat for you guys tonight. Jimmy Warren is tying the Thunder Creek streamer. And I won't take any more, and you can let her rip.
You can.
No, you got it. You got it.
Okay. I'm Jim. Some of you know me from way long ago, and some of you know me from recently. I like to tie. I don't tie well, but it's fun, and that's what counts. I like this. This is the Thunder Creek streamer. There's a series of these. Anyway, I had such good notes and they're lost. I think I emailed them to Mark for to put on the roster. So my dates and names are going to be wrong, but there's this guy, and I think it was like in the early 60s, he developed this fly, and he wanted a bigger head and a bigger eye as opposed to how the traditional flies were tied with just a thread head. And so he came up and came up with this pattern. In the early 70s, he published a book on this pattern, and I thought I had the book, but I don't. And if I'm not mistaken, there's a whole series of 6 or 7 different key patterns of this. And it's just a variation of the materials. And it's a simple fly to tie. It's got very few materials, but it's very tricky. But your 7th or 8th fly, they'll start taking nice shape, and you'll start liking what you've got. You're gonna start off with a crappy looking one like this because nothing is right. They didn't form right. I've got another one here where there's way too much material and it looks like a piece of crap. As you start getting in tune and a little better at it, you'll form the heads nicer, and they come out looking the way they're supposed to. And it's really a simple fly to tie, and it's very effective. The traditional way on this is on a 4XL or 6XL hook, ring eye hook. What the heck is a ring eye? Okay, I had to look that up. Anyway, it's a straight eye hook. Okay, crap. Yeah, call me unprepared. And anyway, shit. A ring eye hook is important on this because of the way the bullet head is formed, and a ring eye hook is like this. It's not bent up, it's not bent down, it's just a straight ring eye hook. In this particular one, we're tying them on a size 6. This is a 4XL, but the pattern says 4 or 6XL streamer hooks, ranging from 2 to 8. And so the hook is important. The second important thing is body material. The pattern, the original patterns call for silver tinsel. Now, over the time, there's look this up on YouTube. There's a plethora of different people tying this pattern with different pointers and different variations of it. But they'll go from floss bodies to yarn bodies to like a spay pattern, a floss covered with tinsel. So you can be very creative with this. But we're using regular tinsel, ring eye hook, and some bucktail. We're using white thread to tie the bucktail on and red thread to finish it off and form the gill plates. Now you don't have to use red thread. If you've got a nice red marker, you can at that point just mark your thread, and that'll serve as your red collar. I think it's nicer with a dap of red thread. And as you know, there's about 17 different variations of red. So you can take like a fire orange red for a different look on your gill plate, or just a nice scarlet red. All right, it's a pretty easy pattern. We can tie it together, or
Why don't you go ahead and tie one, Jim, and we can all watch and ask questions, and then we'll tie one all.
okay.
I think it'll be better.
Sure. All right. So the first thing we want to do is mount our hook in the vise. And okay. And it's pretty secure. Oh, shit. Crappity crap. Never fails. My string came out. What the shit? Okay. I should just pick another color thread and call it a day. But I got so good at tying it in white. Okay. All right. So we're going to tie on, get your thread tied on. Oh, crap. All right. So we're going to tie on our thread and get that started. Now, normally I like to put a nice thread base down and back, but I don't think you need to on this fly. So we're going to tie in our tinsel. And one thing I noticed about this tinsel, which I wasn't sure if I liked it or hated it, but it seems to be double thick, and halfway through it splits. So you're going to wind it forward and back. Yeah, see, there's two pieces here and they're stuck together. And then we come back. Oh, some of you remember eons ago, my daughter would come up and tie. And I asked her if she wanted to tie, and she said, in this tone, no. Yeah, she's married now. I think she's around 25. Seems just like yesterday. Okay, so we're going to tie that off. And you don't have to be too neat up on the head. Oh, Jesus. Okay. All right. And about a quarter of the way back, so we wrapped our tinsel to just past the hook eye or the hook, and you can go just short of the bend. And then we wrapped it back. And then about a quarter of your material, half and a quarter, that's where your tie-in point is going to be. Then we're going to start with some bucktail, and white is our first choice. And we're going to tie it on the bottom. So if you have a rotary vise, you can just tip it over. If you don't, just remove the hook and turn it upside down. Okay? Now, I forgot which site and what where I was researching, but I did this and tried it, and it worked out nice. If you haven't bucktail, you've got a colored area here. If it's dyed, it's red or green or whatever, and then your edges are white. Well, if you're doing a pattern and you want just the white or just the brown, you're going to end up with some difficulty here. So this guy took a razor knife, and you can see on the back side, you have the brown, and then you have like the white trim on the ends. He took his razor knife and with the grain of the hair, he sliced it right at that demarcation of the line and pulled it off, and had all the brown hair on the pad and all the white hair off the side. So I did that. And it almost works for Jim. But there was just very little white left on. And I said to myself, wow, you learn something every day. So, and again, like I said, this is a nice pattern. We're going to tie it the traditional way. You don't have to go searching for anything, but I recommend that you do, because you're going to learn something different, just like I learned about the bucktail. So, okay, so we're going to grab a piece of white, and you want to tie it kind of sparse, and you don't want to be over heavy with it. And so we're going to just grab a small piece here. Now, they recommended less than the size of a matchstick. So I don't know how many of you old schoolers are lighting wood stoves or anything, but that's a little more than a toothpick. So, anyway, this one, you can see there's sprinkles all over the place. They recommend stacking it. Here it is. So we're going to stack them a little bit. And I've always had trouble with these guys because the hair was so straight, it wouldn't stack for crap. So I'm going to grab some off of this one, and it'll stack nicer. These were shot by my dad several years ago, and he got one this morning. I told him, I said, I'm running out of bucktails. Go get me a deer. So my cousin got one and my dad got one. So I got 2 bucktails coming. And they're not really cheap at the store either. So if you have an opportunity and know a hunter, have them cut you the tail, just bone it out. I stretched it on a board and left it in my shed for the winter, and I didn't salt it up or anything. It's just a hard skin and it's good to go. Again, that's the Jim method. Doesn't mean it's the right method. Okay, so we're stack that up just to even them up a little better. And we're going to put the white on the bottom. And this fly, we bend the hair back to the hook. So we're putting the points forward. Well, how far? Well, we want to measure a little bit longer than the hook because we're bending it back. You lose some in the bend. There's engineering numbers for that. I don't remember what they are now, but fly tying numbers, just put a little swoosh more. And we're gonna tie that on a little loosely. And we're gonna make sure we have our hair on the bottom and bring our thread up to the eye, right behind, and tie it as close to the ring eye as you can, because we're gonna end up pulling it back. And make sure it's on the top, flare it around a little bit, and then secure it on. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so we got that tied on a little good. We're gonna trim off our stuff on the back. Okay. Now snug that guy on. I've never done this before, but I got this from the kids a while ago, like a month or so ago. I've seen some of you use it. This UV glue, this is awesome. And well, yeah, don't tie these in your backyard and when you're doing this. Anyway, you can put a little UV glue on here to secure it. I did that at home, and it works nice. I've got some questions about the professional gluers out here, and because you have the UV light, and if you've got thick and it soaks in, how does that UV light cure the stuff that's like soaked away in? I thought that was a good question. Okay, so we're flipping this back over now. And okay, now we're going to do the same thing on the top, but we're going to bicolor the top half of this. And remember, when you fold it over, the first item that you tie on is going to be the top item that you see. So we want a little dark strip to look like and mimic the dark back on a little minnow. So we're going to take a little bit, and really a little bit. So we're just going to take a swoosh of that. This is way too much, but that's okay. And if you have a good bucktail, there's really no under fur in it. Yeah. Mark's sitting there going, yeah, maybe we should have tied along. Okay. Ah, shit. This is the way I tie at home also. It's awkward and messy. It's not pretty and neat. We're gonna stack that the best we can. Yeah, shit. All right, we'll pretend it's nice and stacked. Okay, so we got a bunch here. This is too much. So we're gonna take like half of that away. And all we want is just a little pinstripe. So there, ooh, that's pretty. Okay, so we're gonna tie that on about the same length of what our white is. And that's not gonna look good there. All right, I had trouble with the scissors, left-handed. Ooh, see what practice does? Okay, so we're gonna lay that right on top. And we're going to snug that down. We're going to make sure we're centered over the eye because, like I said, we're going to put another color over this. Okay. That's going to be good there. All right. And if you got a couple strays, just pick them out. And you're going to have strays because we screwed up again. All right. Well, pretend the black's not on there yet. And you need to keep these separated a little bit. So moisten this up and pull it down and out of the way a little bit. And then your black, we're gonna do the same thing, pull that up and out of the way. Okay. Now we're gonna put another color on there, a light brown. And if you look in online and get a whole list of these, they make them in brown trout colors, brook trout colors, rainbow colors. Oh crap, I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, what's the big saltwater pattern with the big bubble eyes? Greens and whites and all sorts of bass colors. You can use bucktail. There's a plethora of synthetics out there that you can use. You can even use marabou as far as a body material. So here's one with marabou. Okay. All right. I'm getting a phone call right now. Holy crap. All right. It's just my brother, so. Okay, so we're gonna tie the next layer on with a little lighter brown. And we're gonna take a little bit larger than a matchstick, because we're gonna clean some of it out and stack it, and we may have to double stack it because some of these seem to be not as long as I'd like to flip it over. Let's just grab a little longer bunch here. Okay. All right. Not mistaken, I have a tool here. I do. Everyone should have one of these. This is the only thing I use a comb for anymore. All right. So we're gonna stack this guy like we did the others. And it's just to give us a little bit more evenness. I don't like them perfectly stacked because I like the natural stagger on them. I think it gives it a little more natural look to it. If you get them too perfect, it looks cookie cutter, like you came in and trimmed them off. And okay, so here's a nice bunch. It's going to be long enough to do what we want, but there's too much. So we want to keep a good portion of that, and we'll pull out down to, like I said, about the size of a matchstick. And let's bring that around. We're going to want that. And right about there, we're going to trim them there. Okay. Left-handed. Okay, so we're going to bring our thread back to our front portion here, and we're going to lay that on top. Oh, that's still too much. And that's why you have to tie 5 or 6 of these, because you'll get your proportions, and you'll end up happier with what your end product is. I think that's still too much, but we'll find out. Okay, so we're going to tie that in. Well, we're slipping around a little bit, but that's okay. You want to kind of bring it and push that around so it's touching the top of the white. And then snug that baby down back to where our end of our tie-in is. And don't be afraid to use a lot of thread here. and wrap that forward just behind the eye, as close to the eye, behind the eye as you can get. And we need a little more. Okay. All right. All right. Okay, so now we're going to bring that back to our, this is going to be our tie-in point. And like I said, we got half and then we're at a quarter mark. So at this point, you can do two things. You can take a red marker and mark and dye your thread, or you can tie over your thread. Well, why don't you just whip finish it? Well, I tried that like 6 times and I said, that's not gonna work. You got so much crap here in the way, it just wraps up in your whip finisher. So for me, it was easier to over tie the end of the other thread and then to carry on. And with this glue, it'll stay. Okay, so we've got our everything in place. And now we're going to form our head. Rotary vise here is great because for me, it worked best coming down at 90 degrees, but you can form that over just like that. And in the packets, there's this marvelous tool. It's a piece of straw. And we wetted that and pushed it out of the way so we could kind of keep our demarcation line. I guess it'd be kind of like the lateral line or something like that. So you take that tool, push it over and push it up to where your thread is hanging. The tools are much shorter. Oh, see? Then you need a little practice or you end up with a boogered up head here. Let's redo that. Without the straw. Maybe the straw is too big. Shit. All right. Okay. All right. So now it's a little better. I'm sorry. It's nothing worked here. Okay, our black, we wanted our black on top. We're gonna forget the straw, even though the straw really worked nice last night. Okay, that's a little better. Okay, now we're gonna tie our little gill plate on. We'll whip finish that. Come on, where are you? Oh, shit. Great. All right. With the old fashioned way. Okay. All right. And at this point, I would trim any stragglers. And you're going to use some eyes. These happen to be 5mm eyes. I think they're just a titch too big. And again, it's hit or miss for Jim. We're gonna use the thin. They're thin, yep. Come on. Where's my gizmo? Oh, Jesus, everything's missing. Okay. So we're gonna put that on. Big bubbleless eyes. Where's the flashlight? Okay. Oh, shucks. All right. Oh, shit. You just want to get it in spot. All right. I'm getting ready to shit can this eye. Okay, that's just enough to hold them on. And I found that, okay, I did a few of these older ones in the Sally Hansen. Yeah, I'm pissed. All right. Anyway, so thin is, it didn't work as well as last night. And then I coated it with this thick stuff, which soaks into it nicely. Covered the eyes. If you use a bodkin instead of a fat finger, you can get them almost right where you want them. I can't find it. No, not yet. Okay. Anyway, look how good this glue works. Wow. I think it's done already. So you put a couple coats of this and you get a nice, big, heavy bullet head. And look, those eyes, look, they're stuck. See? Okay. Is this the thick? Okay, so we'll make, so, and then I screwed up on one of these. Oh, I really laced it to it. You'll never get a tippet through that eye. I literally had to go find a micro drill to open it up. But this glue is phenomenal. I mean, I was just thinking oh, it's just another glue, but it's done. And okay, so here we got just what he was designing, a big head, big eyes for attracting. The big head does two things. It pushes a lot of water, so if the fish's lateral line will pick that up. I never was a proponent for eyes. You see most of my flies around, none of them have eyes. I've changed my mind this past summer, and eyes, believe it or not, give them a strike point. I did a little test on my neighborhood pond, and I did catch more fish with eyes than without eyes. So that unofficial test, eyes are the way to go. Okay, so, and again, just a few simple materials, streamer body material, bucktail, calftail, foxtail, synthetics, little red for a gill plate.
You need one?
No, I got
Oh, you
enough
got
stuff
everything?
here.
Okay.
And some eyes. There's got to be a better way to put the eyes on than I did here, but it works. I think we got to drill this one open too.
Better way is not to do it permanently.
I usually save the ones with the eyes shut and give them to my brother, so.
That's what he's calling you about.
Yeah. He's probably calling to give me the news from camp, and which I got this morning when my dad went home. Anyway, that was it. I know I struggled through it. but I struggle through every fly, and it's really a simple tie. The thing is, you gotta do a couple of them to get your proportions down. And some
I
of
want
these,
you guys, excuse me, Jim, I want you guys to appreciate all the work we had to do to put these kits together. That in itself, Herculean effort. Way to go.
so some of these, you can take a look at them. You can tell which ones are good ones and which ones are bad ones. They're either overdressed or underdressed. There's like 4 of them that are like perfect. Even if they're overdressed or underdressed, they'll catch fish. So, all right, you guys ready to try one? All right, put your hook in and let's get your thread mounted on it, and then oh, I bumped it?
No, it just. No, Mark did.
Oh. All right. Okay, so then attach your tinsel and wrap that back and then back to the front with overlapping wraps. And this I thought was metal, but it's mylar or plastic or something. So it's just your basic Christmas tree tinsel that they've run a tool on to give it this ribbed look. And then they charge you like $9 instead of 50 cents for a thing of Christmas tree tinsel. I've always been pretty crazily frugal on buying supplies and finding alternative sources. And
Are we making those strange noises? Or
Yes.
doing something next door?
No, it's just that sliding in, I think you're sliding in the, mylar.
And I come from a family of hunters, so I've always got access. Okay, if you can see here, you can see it splitting. Oh, well. Come on. All right. You might get lucky and not get any bumbles in it. But if you do, just open the split and just keep wrapping. It'll slip and you won't get lumps. But I don't think the fish could tell. Okay. All right, so you can lay down a nice little thread base where you're going to attach the bucktail. There's more than enough in here. I mean, the strands that are in there, they're more than you'll need. So just pick some nice ones out and stack them if you want. You can even finger stack them. Just pull the tips until you get them kind of close. And like less than a matchstick. that looks better. Okay. All right. So you got a little longer than your hook overall. Because we're gonna tie in a head, we're gonna fold it back. So figure on like a hook and a half.
Go with the white first, correct?
And you're gonna do the white first, and you do the white on the bottom, on the underside of the hook. Then trim your butts. You don't want to trim them flat. You're gonna want to kind of taper them down. Because you want a big bullet on the front, tapered back. Nice, okay. Okay. All right, then the second layer of bucktail, you want to tie on a darker one. And your middle layer is going to be a lighter colored one, but not white. And so like if you're doing a brook trout one, you might have a dark brown and a pink in the middle, or maybe a blue-green or something like that. But if you take a look at most of the minnows, especially like if you're swimming with the kids in the summertime and you got all these little minnows up on the shoreline, they're kind of translucent, but they're dark on the top and light on the bottom. And that's kind of the effect that you're looking at. And if you catch some with the kids and take a look at them, the head is huge as compared to the rest of the body. So the look of these, like this is probably the best one here as far as size. That's a good look. Oh, I wish there were eyes on it. Okay, so, and as you fold them over, the first one you tie down is going to be on the top. So we're going to use the dark color again. And you don't need much of it. Just enough to give it that dark line looking from the top. Okay. There's gotta be tools. Oh. Okay, there's that. There's enough brown right there. So too much. Okay. Okay. Okay, here's another good tool. And this, if you got an old pen, take it on your belt sander and open the tip up a little bit. And you got two different sizes of straws for pushing. And this is what I used last night. And it seemed to give me, oh shoot, okay, too soon. Okay, so we're gonna tie that in with our red. Okay. All right. So I didn't whip finish that. I just over tied it with my red thread. And you could try to whip finish it. If you've got a deep throated whip finisher, you could probably whip finish around all this hair, but I recommend just tying it off on like we demonstrated. And then take your little pusher and push that head up to where you're tied your threads hanging. Snug it tight. And oh, that head's a lot nicer than the first one. Whip finisher. Okay. And you could squeeze it flat a little bit so your eyes will sit on a little nicer. So when you drop your glue on, they don't go all over. Now they're gonna go all over anyway, aren't they? Better hurry. Okay. Okay. This one came out nicer. The eye's not glued shut. The eyes are in close to the same proximity. And the density is pretty good. So now all that's left to do is to go fish it. Well, back in the day, they didn't have some of the neat things that we have today, like this UV glue, stick-on eyes, and yet they'd paint the eyes on. So they would use pieces of dowel of different diameters, dip the dowel in paint, and just eye drop them on after you first coated it with epoxy. And then they would, let's say yellow, and then you'd come in with the black eyeball, and then you'd epoxy over that again. So at least today, we've got some nicer tools, easier tools to work with. These stick-on eyes are great. They're expensive, but they're great. This glue is out of this world. It sure beats like 19 coats of Sally Hansen's. And other than that, all the other tools are materials are traditional materials. And that's the Thunder Creek streamer.
Yeah.
And again, it's an easy tie. It'll take a couple to get your proportions down, but it's an easy tie. And it's an effective fly. You could weight it if you want. But the traditional pattern is the way we tied it today, other than the glue in the eyes.
Thank you, Jim. Nicely done.
Well, it's fun. Everybody should do this, because it is fun. I mean, we all know each other. We all have tips or tricks to share. Yeah. Another very important trick when you're working with deer hair is to not put it in your wife's washing machine to clean it out. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah, she frowns on that.
Remember when we first started using that? Yeah.